David Allen, and I'm talking with Keva Bethel. She's done a beautiful first of a number of chapters, but also books. It's called Adventures of Cohen during the pandemic, the COVID pandemic. She's taken the tragedy of the pandemic and done something very beautiful, a storybook for children, for parents to read, children, and for children to read themselves. How creative, Keva.
Thank you.
Would you like to read a little bit for us?
Okay, sure. I'll do maybe about 2 pages. As I anxiously awaited Nana's surprise, I spent my days coloring, playing, watching cartoons, and most importantly, napping. I've been told that children grow in their sleep. The news said we were experiencing a pandemic. Mom explained that this meant people all around the world were getting sick from the virus. She said doctors were even getting sick, and some people were dying. There was not enough equipment to protect them, such as face masks and gloves. As the world became worried and tired of fighting the virus, here in the Bahamas, our officials tried their best to prevent the virus from spreading. The country was even placed on a complete lockdown a few times. That's right, we were not even allowed to grocery shop during the lockdown.
Wow.
Yeah.
I remember that. The long lines.
Yes.
As you see little Cohen, any thoughts about little Cohen as he's listening to a story?
I want him to know how we reacted to the pandemic, and at the same time, I wanted, we just came out of the Christmas season, and every time the angels would come, they would say, "Fear not." So it's like I want the children to know, if something like this ever happens again, you don't have to fear. There are ways that you can cope. There are ways that you can deal with it. So I just wanted the book to, in a sense, to be a source of comfort for the children. Like, oh, okay, well, Cohen and his family survived that, so maybe we'll be okay. So.
You're saying something very deep, because reading is a way of surviving.
Yes. Yeah.
Reading is a way of transcending your particular chaos or pathos.
We would always say in our church, read, mark, and inwardly digest. When you
say that again?
Read, mark, and inwardly digest.
Explain.
So when you read, it gets inside of you when you're reading and what you're reading, and you have to put something on the inside so that when you face a crisis later in life, it can pour back out of you.
On Monday mornings at work, you bring me a copy of your church bulletin.
Yeah.
And I love to get your notes.
Yeah.
So you train yourself to read, mark,
and inwardly digest.
Wow.
Yeah.
So read, mark, write,
yeah,
and inwardly
digest. Yeah.
And so as parents read this to their children,
yes,
they're being touched.
Yes.
The children being touched.
Yes.
And the family as a whole being touched.
Yeah, because it'll help to even their temperament. It'll help to calm them. Well, but from years ago, that's why you read and to put the child to sleep, because it calms the temperament, and it calms it soothes the soul, really.
That's right.
So yeah.
We read to put our children to sleep.
Yes.
To calm them down.
Yep.
And so you're saying during this time of
mayhem,
lament and mayhem or fear, if we could read more to ourselves and to our children, it would calm ourselves.
Yes.
That's important.
Yes.
Why have we lost reading?
Well, like I said, in becoming modernized, we've kind of lost ourselves, really. We've strayed away from things that we used to do because we think it's old-fashioned, or who has the time for that? But if you don't make the time for it now, you'll be forced to make the time for it later. Like in our program, we've seen those who have been challenged, with court situations and whatnot, in their young adult lives, because nobody made the time for them then. So now it's like, as a society, then now we're forced to make the time now. You see, so. Literature is important. I know there was a slogan many years ago, "Let's read Bahamas." Literature has always been important to our culture, so we can't lose that.
But yet, in our busy life,
Yeah.
we forget.
Yes, because it's convenient to forget. It's so easy to put the devices in the children's eye when they're crying to soothe them, and they're just looking and watching. But you can, I don't know, I think it dampens the creativity in the child, you know. So.
And of course, Keva, there's been a lot of work done between children watching television as opposed to children reading or being read to.
Well, it delays speech. I just found out last night. A friend of mine, he was saying that his kid, the speech is delayed, and the pediatrician advised that it's because, you know, too much screen time. She has to be read to develop the speech. So, yeah.
Read to, and him also practicing reading back to the parent. And your book can work both ways, right?
Yes,
you can read to them.
It's an easy read for beginner readers. It's 15 pages, and it's illustrated to help to appeal to their senses. You know, children like the primary colors, and that's why you'll see all the reds and the greens and the, you know.
Primary colors.
Yeah, the
kids like primary colors.
Yeah.
The reds, the greens, the
blues,
yellows.
and yeah. So.
Wow. A lot of thought went into this, Keva.
Yeah, it really was a labor of love. Like I said, I always had a heart for children, so I'm glad to be able to do something for them.
Now, Keva, I know you're very devout Christian in the Anglican tradition. How does your faith relate to this literary work?
Well, the story, it's primarily about the pandemic, but it puts a modern twist to a very traditional story, the Easter story. So it's in all of the books in the Cohen series, you'll find some type of spiritual or moral teaching. And on the back of it, in the About the Author section, it says that the Adventures with Cohen series gives me a chance to combine 4 things that I'm passionate about into a creative medium: my faith, my science, my love for children, and my love for literature.
Okay, let's discuss those. The 4 things:
faith,
my faith, my science, my love for children,
and my love for literature.
Okay, let's go through those briefly.
Well, my faith, as you alluded to earlier, I've been raised Anglican, and I'm also charismatic Christian. And then my science, I studied I have a bachelor's in biology and biochemistry, and I've always had a love for children. And then I grew up with the written word central to my home. In my home, we always had books and encyclopedias. So, yeah.
So it's almost like you're taking your life story and presenting it out there for children to read and see.
Yeah.
So the story of Cohen's adventures really is the story of Keva Bethel.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow. As someone says, we tell stories, but we always tell our story.
Ourselves, yeah. And it's a chance too to like kind of recreate your childhood. Like I toy around with different scenarios that I would have been presented with as a child. And like I said in one of the earlier segments, if you read to a child, you can tap into their creativity to say, oh, well, let's change the ending of that story. What do you think should have happened? So I'm using this series.
That, you can what? If you read?
When you're reading to children, you can tap into their creativity by like
An imagination.
An imagination by saying, well, how do you think that story should have ended? Or let's write a different ending together, you know? So I'm using the Adventures with Cohen series to kind of like recreate scenarios that happened in my childhood. And if something happened and I didn't like the way that turned out, I can like, oh, okay, I can rewrite it through the Adventures with Cohen series. So if I lost that game then, I could win it now, you know?
Now I see what you're doing.
Now I could win it, like, and see what it's like to be on the winning team, and
Great cover. Yeah. The power of art.
Yeah, writing is powerful, writing.
We can do our own story.
Yeah.
We can choose the way it's going to end.
Yes, and that's important.
Wow.
That's important.
That's creative, isn't it?
It is, and it's therapeutic. Because as I said earlier, like if there was a certain game I played and I lost, I can now win it, and I can see, oh, how will it feel to win instead of losing, and I can portray that excitement through my characters in the book, you know? So.
And it's interesting because during this past couple of weeks, we've been really feasting on Sir Sidney Poitier's work.
Yes, yeah.
Did his work touch you? Any of his films touch you?
Well, yeah, I've had a chance to see some of his films. They had a whole week of his films on TV, and I've had a chance to see some for the first time because I've never seen them before. So, yeah, it was
What struck
interesting.
you about Sir Sidney?
I liked the fact that he always played like respectable roles, you know, as a young Caribbean Bahamian man, black man in America, in Hollywood, America. He didn't just take what was offered just to you know, be on TV. He vetted, you know. He knew what he wanted and he stuck with it, you know. So that's what I liked. Like he's
he taught himself to write, to read, and it's absolutely amazing.
It is, and again, it's something that we can be proud of, you know. It's something that I'm sure that we are proud of. Well, I am proud of, you know. So
he's gone, but his films will live on.
Yeah, he will live on through the films. See, that's the importance of creative mediums,
and
right?
Of art.
And of art, yeah. He will live on through his films, yeah.
You will live on through Cohen.
I hope.
Yes.
Yeah.
Once you did the writing, I know there was the joy of writing, but was any sad moments too that you had to face?
Yes, as I said earlier, when I spoke to the country, I said, you know, never give up, because there'll be oppositions along the way. Like people who you think will encourage you will actually discourage you. But if there's something on the inside of you, you just have to, you know, wear it loosely and try and rise above. And I know that's easier said than done. I know all too well that that's easier said than done. But if you want to see your vision come to fruition, you have to. It's like no guts, no glory kind of way. Like you really have to stick with it.
So again, you get a vision of what Sir Sidney went through.
I could imagine. Yeah.
Should I give up? Should I go on?
Yeah.
But he just kept on, keeping on.
Yeah, because he knew what he wanted, and he knew what he wanted for himself. He knew he knew what he wanted. So. I know there was one documentary, I think when it was his 90th birthday, the documentary that our country put together for him, and in it they were saying, you know, when he went to like read for plays, because, you know, I guess with the Bahamian accent and whatnot, they were saying, oh, well, you should just stick with being a dishwasher, you know, but he knew that's not what he wanted that wasn't what he wanted for his life, so he just kept trying, and it was the same. I felt the same way with this book, with all the author representatives turning me down, because with trying to publish, you can't send your manuscript directly to a publishing house. You have to go through an author representative, and then with the author representative, you have to like write a one-page query letter with a watered-down version of your book to get them to kind of like hook you to say, oh, okay, well, I want to represent you. And of course, all of these things have fees associated. So with every author representative I try turning me down, it's like, what do I do? You know, like I have something to say and I know that it's worth a read, but without even looking at the manuscript, people are like, no, you know, left, right, and center, and that's not easy. So.
You know, Keva, I found it very interesting because when you started working as my director of research, I would write and rewrite and overwrite. And you would say, we're not going to do this again.
Yeah.
But then I was watching you write your story and the art and the stuff.
Yeah.
So it seemed that the work in research paved the way for you realizing that.
Oh, yes. It
you just
gave
have
me
to
the
keep
discipline.
going, right?
It gave me the discipline I needed. And of course, you know, with our published papers, you know, it's a long road before it's actually published. It gets, you know, declined and rejected. So it taught me the lessons that I needed to learn in order to be able to see this to completion.
We're going to take a break and be right back.